you're all very welcome. And today we're looking at the whole concept of stepping into your power. So I want to give you clear steps to build your confidence as a leader. So for those of you, oh wow, we have Davin is calling from Memphis, Tennessee in the USA. That's fantastic. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure what time it is over there in the US of A, over in Memphis. We're 1 p.m. lunchtime here in Ireland. So I suppose just first of all to say a big thank you for joining me live. And I know that some of you will also be watching this recording later. And I want to maybe start by, introducing myself a little bit for those of you who haven't met me before, because we do have people from all over the place. So this is a little bit about me. I'm a chartered counselling psychologist and have been for over 21 years now. And I'm also a professional coach. So I work primarily now with female leaders. I was working for over 20 years. I had a private practice where I worked with adolescents and I worked with adults in a counselling setting. And I closed down my private practice after 20 years. I kind of had enough of that work and closed that down a couple of years ago. So since then, I've moved more into coaching, but I also run online programs, particularly for women in leadership. I have a Looking After the Leaders program. I've had two cohorts of two different groups of women come through that. We're still working with the second group, and I'm going to be developing and launching a further course in about September this year. So that's a little bit about me. I suppose I love working with female leaders to enhance their confidence, enhance their clarity and their focus, and really help people to step into their own power, to connect more with themselves, to feel happier in their own skin. So that involves working to clear away self-doubt, clear away stress, manage different difficulties that you might be overcoming, and build confidence, in your life at home and at work. So some of the companies I've worked with over the last year, you can see on screen here, include several universities. Actually, University of Stuttgart has come online with me since lockdown. That's the beauty. We can, of course, these things were available to us, but I have to say I wasn't working much online until lockdown forced it to happen, and now I love it. I've also done a lot of work and continue to work with Royal College of Physicians in Ireland, where I teach, co-facilitate wellness matters programs for senior registrar level doctors. And I've also done some ongoing work with UCD, various areas in University College Dublin and Trinity College in Dublin as well. And then, excuse me, some Irish companies and some more multinational pharmaceuticals, KPMG, you probably have heard of abroad. So quite a mix of different work. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm here today. And I suppose when we look at the topic that we're looking at today is confidence, really, and owning your power, stepping into your power. And we recently had, at the beginning of March, International Women's Day. And the ongoing difficulty, and even lockdown has probably set women back again, in our search for equality and being treated as equals, being paid as equals, having equal opportunities. And, there's a lot happening at a systemic level, and there's a lot that needs to happen. But it's also, I think, important that, sometimes because of a lack of confidence, people hold themselves back. So maybe your lack of confidence has held you back from going for a promotion, for example, or for asking for a pay rise, or even for just speaking up in a meeting or putting yourself forward for something. So there are so many different ways that having a lack of confidence or having self-doubt can impact on us negatively and hold us back so that we're not achieving our potential then. And I guess I hate to see that. It's very often easier for somebody else to see somebody's potential, where the person themselves maybe isn't able to see their own potential, isn't able to see what their, that their own competence and what they're capable of. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in our time today. So I would encourage you now at this point, before we really get into it, to switch off your phones or turn off the notifications, switch your phone to silence, grab your pen and paper, and just allow yourself to be here with me over the next 40 minutes or so. Okay. The recording will be available, so you can check in back afterwards at it afterwards as well. So yeah, just allow yourself to be present with me. So I suppose my promise, as I've made, is that I will deliver 3 key steps to building your own confidence. I want to deliver some clear steps, but I also want to give you some top tips along the way. Confidence is it's a big issue, and a lot of people maybe were perhaps even too lacking in confidence to turn up today or to sign up today. So thank you to those of you who have joined me live, and I know I've got messages from people who will be looking forward to the recording as well. So if you do have particular questions, type them into Q&A, and I'll check in with the Q&A box every now and again and make sure that I try and address those questions that you might have. So, okay. First of all, the first thing that I want to say is that I work with a lot of really highly competent women. I'm talking like surgeons, lawyers, doctors, people in different types of companies. They might be directors. And still across the board, even with these highly accomplished, competent women, I'm seeing a lot of self-doubt and a lack of confidence in lots of different areas. And this is holding people back. So just imagine what your life might be like if you didn't have that crippling self-doubt, if you didn't have the different hang-ups that you have, if you weren't listening to that negative voice that's going on in your head all the time. And very often when people come to coaching, or previously they would have come to counselling to me, and they want to build their confidence, there's often the lack of confidence is often stopping them from doing something. I'd really like to do that course, but I don't have the confidence. Or when I have the confidence, then I would do this. Or if I had more confidence, then I would do that. And that's the big mistake. That's the number one mistake people make. They think that if they wait until they get confidence, then they'll, whenever they magically get the confidence, they're going to do whatever it was that they dreamed of doing. You cannot afford to wait, because that's not how you're going to build confidence. Really, you need to take the action first and then build your confidence that way. So confidence is gained by taking action. And taking action in the direction of which you want to go. And that's going to be different action for different people. So I think at this point, it might be helpful for you to ask yourself, what would I be doing if I had more self-confidence? What would I be doing? What would you be doing if you had more self-confidence? Actually, let's see here what you might have to say in the Q&A. Pop it in there. What would you do if you had more confidence? What has confidence been stopping, lack of confidence been stopping you from doing? And let me know in the Q&A. I'll hopefully see it coming in there. I kind of have to pop around the window a little bit. So that's the first thing, I suppose, is to take action and to be prepared to take action. So I'm going to go into kind of another layer under that, because the other thing that I see is that even where people have taken action, they're not allowing themselves to build up confidence. So if that's you, I want to answer that and address that for you too a little later. So when we look at our 3 steps, the first thing is, if you are here and you want to be there, then you need to kind of have a plan. And very often people say, oh, I'd love to be more confident, but they have no plan and don't take any action on it. So ideally, you'd need to really get quite specific what would you be doing if you felt more confident? What would you like to do? What would you like to achieve? So identify at least 3 specific goal areas that you want to work out and get really specific, narrow them down. So I've given some examples here, and these are examples that I've worked on in coaching with some of my clients. So for instance, one coaching client came to me because even though they're highly competent, they're working at a senior level, and very often when those senior meetings would happen, they'd be on a big screen happening remotely with people in other countries, and they would quake in their boots when they got on into one of those meetings and find it difficult to find their voice and find it difficult to speak. And when they had to make a contribution because they were expected to and they had one prepared, they might be shaking a little bit. So that might be more that you might want to speak up more and say your piece and get more confident at senior lead meetings, for an example. Another one might be that you want to get comfortable giving difficult feedback. When you move into a leadership position, you're expected to be able to give feedback. And nowadays, it's not enough to give feedback, at a review meeting every 6 months. People want regular feedback, and that also means having to be able to have difficult conversations and be able to address issues as they arise rather than letting things build up. Or you might simply want to ask for a pay rise. Perhaps you feel confident with your peers, but maybe you lack confidence when you start looking up the line or having to communicate up the line. Other people are very comfortable giving praise, but are lacking in confidence even down the line where they have to have that difficult conversation or have to address an issue, maybe behavioral issue or some other kind of issue with somebody at work. So they're just examples of how you might get specific. So that's the first step, is to identify your goals and what do you want to work on? What do you want to change? Because confidence is huge. It's, even the word itself means different things to different people. So you need to get specific about what it means to you. Your second step then is to look at the outcome. Okay. When you feel more confident, what's going to be different? What's going to change? What will you be doing differently? And, what will that look like for you? And more importantly, what will it feel like? How will you feel when you can successfully speak up in senior lead meetings, for instance? How will you feel when you're, comfortable addressing issues? What other, advantages are going to be in that for you? What other, benefits are there? Because sometimes taking some of these actions, some of those goals might be very scary to you right now. So you need to look at the benefits of getting past the fear. When you're not feeling that fear anymore, when you're feeling confident, what are the benefits of that to you? What are you going to get out of doing this work? So what impact will achieving your goals have on you, and those benefits? So at this point, it's even to, maybe write yourself a little convincer. That so if you find that it's kind of hard somewhere along the journey, that you can go back and, read over this and remind yourself of why you're doing this and what you want to achieve and what your goals are and what it's going to be like for you when you've got there. Okay. So the other thing here with the outcome is it can be really helpful to have a little measure for yourself, because sometimes we don't notice our own improvements. Sometimes we don't notice that we have maybe already made a little bit of progress, because we still think of, this imaginary fantasy of how we're going to be. So having a little scale can be really helpful there. So on the confidence scale, for example, how comfortable are you currently, in my examples, speaking up in team meetings? And you might say, I'm a 2 out of 10. Okay, well, where would you like to get to with that? Well, it'd be great to get to 10 out of 10, but I think I'd be really happy with a 7 out of 10. Okay, so keep record of that. And then, every now and again, check out, where are you now out of 10? And you might be surprised to find that you've come up to a 4 without even noticing. So it can help to measure your progress as you go along. And that takes us to step number 3. You have to take action. Okay. It's all very well to set goals and have wonderful plans. You do need to get clear on your outcomes, but the third step is that you need to take action. So look at that practically first of all. Is it a case that you actually don't know the steps to take or really don't have the skills? So, when I was getting set up here, I'm okay and comfortable on Zoom webinars. Technical skills wouldn't be my greatest. I've learned as I go along the way. I'm not looking at myself on Facebook Live right now, so God knows what's going out in Facebook Live right now or whether it's working or not. I'll check later. If you're on Facebook Live and things are going well, thank you. So, every step of the way, as I do new things, I have to learn more stuff, and I might have to do a course on that. Maybe you need to study some more. Maybe you need to go to a coach. Maybe you could do it some mentoring. There's usually a variety of different options available to you when you need to learn new skills. So identify and take action in those areas. And very often you're probably already doing some of that stuff. And that's maybe the straightforward stuff. It's like, right, well, yeah, I know when I need to do a course and I can learn that way. It's stuff when we're just lacking confidence in that we, maybe feel like we avoid. So maybe you know how to do something, but you've avoided doing it because you're not comfortable, because you cringe a little bit or have some fear around that and lacking in confidence. But you're not going to get through that. And I have a diagram we'll look at shortly to explain this. You're not going to get through that fear until you take the action, take consistent action. You need to practice, practice, practice. Think about a baby learning to walk. How many times do they fall? They land on their bum and they get back up again, and they land on their bum and they get back up again. And you've been there and you've done that and you've learned to walk. Now, what if a baby decided, oh my God, everybody's watching me, I'm too embarrassed, I'm not going to get up and walk again. Or I just keep failing. No matter what I do, I keep falling on my bum and I'm just going to sit in my bum now. I'm not going to walk again. Okay. Luckily, babies don't get too caught up in their own mind about those things. They just quite instinctively get up and do it again. Practice, practice, practice. And guess what? We can all walk. Okay, we've all achieved that, and that's huge. There's a whole lot in that. If you slow down your walking, there's a lot of different balance tricks in it. So we do make progress, and so practice, 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 but also record your progress. Make sure that you keep track of all of your progress, even the little steps, the little things. This is really important. You have done so much in your life already. You have achieved so much. But if you're lacking in confidence, it means that you haven't been giving yourself credit for your accomplishments. And it's not just about outer accomplishments, because if your confidence is totally dependent on achievements outside, then, on a day when you don't do well or you appear to fail at something, then that's going to crash your confidence. So you want to have confidence as something that's a solid self-esteem, just, that you're happy in your own skin, even when you don't achieve something, or even if you don't get that accomplishment. But it certainly helps to let the good in. Okay, so I'm just going to check, because we have, I can see that there are questions coming into chat boxes and Q&As and all sorts. Okay, great. So yeah, so somebody is saying, so thank you, Fiona, you're lovely to see you here. Thank you. So yeah, you'd start your own business. Somebody else would go for job interviews, and evidence checking. Will this be recorded? It is being recorded, yes. And we will send it out to everybody who signed up. So yeah, so there are lots of things that you would love to do. Wow, if you are feeling more confident. Okay, I'm just going to check my Q&A here. So we're getting some anonymous questions in Q&A. Somebody else is saying, I'd practice my Italian more by speaking to native speakers and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Yes, we're not going to learn a language until we practice, practice, practice. And the best way to practice is definitely to practice with native speakers to develop the accent, and they'll correct you better. Somebody else is saying, I'm a confident speaker, but I'm tired of being knocked down at meetings. It's easier just to listen than to be the only person asking the questions all of the time. Power speaks volumes, and when you have to generate your own power at senior meetings, it's difficult to sustain. Okay, so there's quite a lot in that. And it sounds like you're being knocked down at meetings. So So I'm not sure if that's a confidence issue or whether I thought there's something else, some other kind of dynamic going on there that may not all be in your control. And another person has contributed that all is good on Facebook. So thank you for that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going here. So I really wanted to spend some time on this with you. Right now, most people kind of like to live in their comfort zone. So you can see on this diagram, the comfort zone is only a small little area. But very often people live in the comfort zone. And that's where you feel safe, where you feel comfortable, you feel in control, you're doing the things that you already know how to do and hang around with the people that you're already comfortable with. The thing is that there's always stuff in life that we might have to do that's outside of our comfort zone. And so if you're lacking in self-confidence, you may be avoiding that stuff, and that's probably in your fear zone. So for a lot of people, I know that the last contributor just said that they are a confident public speaker, but just to use that example, very often people aren't confident in public speaking. And so that's in their fear zone. So they lack self-confidence, that they'd find excuses not to do it. And so that may be you. Perhaps you are avoiding public speaking, avoiding speaking up in the senior lead meetings, for instance, or avoiding situations where you have to give a presentation, not putting yourself forward. And then what also happens, and people land in front of me for this too, is that then they get a promotion and they can't avoid it anymore. And now they're in pure panic. So that's the fear zone. And nobody likes feeling that fear. None of us like to feel. And this is not just you, because everybody knows what it's like to feel fear. Everybody knows what it's like to not feel good enough in some area, whether that's public speaking, whether it's your tennis match, whatever it might be. For others, it's in their parenting, maybe feeling like they're struggling and that no matter what they do, it's not good enough. So there's a fear zone there. And because we don't like feeling the fear, we often stick to the comfort zone. The thing about that is, though, particularly if you're prone to anxiety, is that, by avoiding things, we actually end up growing our anxiety over the long run, because something that maybe then, by avoiding things, maybe, we end up generalizing. So, I don't like meeting new people in a crowd, or I don't feel comfortable in a crowd. So therefore we're avoiding crowds, or we're avoiding group get-togethers. And so, we stop going to those things. So now we're even less confident going. And then our social skills are kind of closing down. So our comfort zone tends to actually shrink over time. And we start to feel like there's less stuff that we're comfortable with, and anxiety just grows that way. So that's how phobias can develop and other different anxieties. So what you want to do here is actually feel the fear and do it anyway. So get whatever support you need, depending on what it is that you're facing into. You might need some help. You might need a cheerleader. You might need a coach to hold you accountable. You might need some support along the way. And some of the stuff you can tackle all by yourself. So stretch. You have to stretch if you want to grow. You need to stretch out of the comfort zone and move through the fear zone into learning. And that's where you begin to deal with the challenges and the problems and acquire new skills. And you're learning, and eventually you grow. And so, when you're in that growth zone there, you can find your purpose, you can set new goals, you can live your dreams. And of course, we want to be there, but it takes a little bit of courage maybe to step through the fear zone. There's a book, and it's a very old book at this stage, Susan Jeffries, I think, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that's really at the crux of this here. You have to stretch out of the comfort zone if you want to grow. So if you are here and you want to be there, there's some growth to happen, there's some change to happen. And if you're not already arrived at that point, well, then there's stuff that you have to learn along the way. You're not there yet. And so you have to be able to move through that and normalize the fact that you maybe feel fear, but keep going and keep taking action. So the other part on this screen, there's quite a lot of information on it that I want to explain to you, is this idea of unconscious incompetence moving through to unconscious competence. So when we're in the comfort zone, we're unconsciously incompetent. I'm going to use an example of tennis, okay, just to use something. Imagine that you play tennis, okay, and you play tennis in your comfort zone. So you're kind of comfortable playing it. You've been playing it for years. Maybe you learned when you were a kid, and you can, whack the ball backwards and forwards and put out a good enough game. And then say this summer, you say, right, I want to, really get better at tennis. I want to move up a level in the tennis club this year. I want to be playing the top guys. Okay. And so you hire yourself a tennis coach. And this tennis coach brings you, so at the start, you're competent at a certain level, but you want to really grow your competence level. Okay. So this coach suddenly starts making you aware of the stuff that you're doing wrong. So they break down your serve and how you hold the tennis racket, and they break down your forehand, or they break down your backhand. And now suddenly you're in what we call the conscious incompetence zone. So you're becoming aware of all your incompetencies. So you're not going to be feeling good at this point. And in fact, very often people kind of quit at this point because they feel like, God, I'm crap. And actually often your tennis game or your golf game or whatever it is at this point will probably be worse than before you started with your coach. And you think, maybe you blame the coach. Well, they're crap. Obviously, I'm not getting better. I'm actually getting worse. Or maybe you blame yourself. Well, I'm never going to be any good at this. But either way, you're now conscious that your forehand isn't good enough, or your backhand isn't good enough, or your serve isn't good enough, or whatever it might be. Okay. But of course, your coach has to bring you into that place of conscious incompetence to make you aware of what you're doing wrong and break it down in order to build it back up in a better way. And so if you stick with the program and you stick with your coaching, then you move into conscious competence. So, think of, you've probably all learned how to drive a car at some stage. At the beginning, everything is in your conscious mind. You're like, oh my goodness, okay, I have to have my hands on the steering wheel like this, and I need to be consciously moving my head so the instructor can see that I'm looking in my mirrors. And in Ireland, if you're not driving an automatic, you have 3 pedals and you've only got 2 feet, and you have to coordinate that with the gear stick. So there's just so much that your head is jam-packed full of all this stuff because it's all in your conscious mind, and you're trying to figure it all out, take control of it. And then as you practice your driving, or in this example, your tennis, or whatever it might be, public speaking up, as you practice, you literally program some of that stuff into your unconscious mind. So you move first, you get more competent with it because you're getting better with it with practice. So you move first into conscious competence. And from there, so now you're doing better. And then, but it's still in your mind. So it's still more of an effort. Okay. So, and then when you keep going again and with more practice and further action, it moves more into your unconscious. And so now you've reached the unconscious competence level. So you reach a level where you've kind of, got this good at your game, and you've improved, you're up that level. Now you're doing well. And that's unconscious competence. I hope that makes some sense to you, to help you to understand the different stages we go through. And the hurdle that people fall at is that conscious incompetence level, where you might have thought, well, when you were in the comfort zone, it's like, well, I was doing okay, but I wanted to get better. But now I'm even worse than when I started. And so that's when a lot of people quit, and they might get very frustrated because they might stay worse for a while because they're no longer able to go back to doing what they used to do because it's been changed. So you do need to stick with it and know that you will come through the difficulty, and you have to persist with things. And this is why it's all about action, folks. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to check in with, actually I see there's some kind of something in chat coming up for me. Cool, okay. So I'm going to just open the Q&A. There's lots going on in here. Okay, so Jane is asking, do you think the idea of the imposter syndrome has really undermined women's confidence? Personally, I think the narrative around the idea of the imposter syndrome is another way of keeping women out of the decision-making process. Very interesting. So first of all, the very first study that came out about imposter syndrome was just based on women. And when the idea of imposter syndrome came about, it was based on women. However, research done since then shows that men and women equally suffer from imposter syndrome. About 50% of our population suffer from imposter syndrome at different times. Okay, so the idea that imposter syndrome is just a women's thing is actually a myth. Okay, so that's the first thing to clear up there for you, and but just to clarify on that even though men and women suffer equally from that imposter syndrome and sense of self-doubt, it impacts on them differently in the sense that they act differently or they behave differently out of that. So, for example, a woman who's feeling imposter syndrome, all that self-doubt, that self-questioning, is not likely to go forward for a promotion because she will feel like she's not capable and that they'll, be questioning, what are you doing here, and even going for this interview. A man is more likely to go for the promotion, and then if he gets the job, a man is more likely to say to themselves, well, that this is proof then that actually I am good enough, therefore it reduces the imposter syndrome. So that's just giving one simple example. I'm not going to give the talk today on imposter syndrome, but the narrative that it's only women who suffer from imposter syndrome is a false narrative. So I think it's interesting because imposter syndrome has become like the it thing at the moment to talk about, and there's a lot about it out there and a lot of people talking about it. So yeah, I'm not sure if the idea of it actually undermines women's confidence. There are a lot of confident women and there are a lot of confident men, but we often behave quite differently in our confidence. So there's other issues at play too. I'm not sure if I've answered your question there, Jane, but maybe I've clarified up one or two points for you. Okay, so you've got your 3 steps. You've set your goals, you've got clear on your outcomes, and you've started to take action. You've started to move from, that kind of unconscious incompetence, and you're now maybe you're stretched out of the comfort zone. That's so important. We have to stretch out of the comfort zone if we want to grow. So if you are not feeling confident in some area and you'd like to feel confident in some area, you have to move through that fear to get there. Okay. I mentioned earlier that sometimes I'm working with people who have taken lots of action, who have perhaps great accomplishments, who have all the studies, all the achievements under their belt, but somehow still aren't feeling the confidence. So they've taken the action, but they're not getting the benefit of the confidence, and that's often because of your attribution style. So I want to spend a few minutes explaining attribution style, because this may be where you're slipping up or where you're kind of, getting in your own way. Okay, so really what this is down to is you need to let in the good. Okay, at the end of the day, you need to let in the good. Now, there are cultural differences in this, and I know we have quite a mix of people, from around the world joining us here today and watching this. So have a little think about what's it like in your culture. What you know, what kind of programs have you been taught? What kind of belief systems have you been brought up with? Limiting beliefs and belief systems and mindsets are really important here, but that's a whole other workshop in itself. Okay, there's only so much I can teach you in a short webinar like today. So for today, I want to focus here on locus of control, and you've got either an internal locus or an external locus. So we have maybe a diagram here to help you. So locus of control is where your own sense of control, and where do you attribute things? Do you attribute them internally or externally? So just for example, say if something good happens in your life, say if you pass an exam, okay, do you give yourself credit for that and attribute it internally, which then is going to build your confidence, which is what you're here for? Okay, and you have a sense of pride maybe in that, and you feel competent and you're satisfied in yourself as a result. Or do you attribute it to outside external factors? Oh, I got lucky. It was an easy test. They, you know, I know I'm their favorite, so they just gave me higher marks. Okay, so if you are attributing your successes externally, you're never going to build your confidence, folks. Okay, if you keep putting everything down to luck or to, you know, to other people. So you want to be confident, but a lot of people, certainly in the Irish context, are afraid that if they get confident that they're going to be, I don't know, bragging or super big-headed or obnoxious or just a pain to be around. But that's not confidence. Confidence is quiet. Confidence is inner. Confidence is not having to shout it out to the world, okay? So maybe you need to kind of check on it, you know, what you actually think confidence is for yourself. It's more a sense of knowing inside. For me, confidence is knowing inside that you can do it and that you're good enough and that, you know, you deserve to be here and that you're equal to everybody else. So it's putting yourself on that kind of equal standing with everybody else around you, rather than comparing yourself negatively to others and putting other people on a pedestal and then never feeling like you're good enough. So when you're feeling confident, you're not giving in to self-doubt and all this negative self-talk. And this, your attribution style is huge here, because if when good things happen, you always attribute them externally, then you're not going to be able to build up your confidence. So the other thing is, what if things go wrong? What if, for example, you fail a test, driving test, tennis match, you know, don't get that interview for the job? How do you attribute that? Because if you're attributing everything to you personally and then kind of globalizing that, oh, I didn't get my driving test, I'm never going to pass. I never pass anything. Or I didn't get that job interview, I'm no good. Nobody wants me. If you're attributing things in that kind of style, then you're going to really kill any confidence that you might have. And you know, feel not good enough, feel a sense of failure, feel a sense of shame, maybe feel humiliated. The other side is when things go wrong, you know, if you always blame others, then that's not great either. But probably when we're looking at confidence, probably the most dangerous attribution style is the person who attributes every success externally and then attributes every failure internally. Are you doing that? Do you blame yourself for everything that goes wrong, but, you know, put it down to luck and good fortune and just happy circumstances when things go right? A lot of people do that. That's not going to grow your confidence. It's the exact opposite. Okay. So I would see people, you know, quite rightly including their teams in the praise, but maybe being unable to take in any praise themselves. So when they have a success at work, they attribute it to their team rather than to themselves. Now, of course, nobody likes the person who takes all the credit and doesn't include the team at all and you know, pushes himself forwards to get the promotions on that basis. We don't want to become that person. I'm not saying you should. However, if you're attributing even internally to the team as well as externally to the team, then, you know, you are part of that team. You need to include yourself in that. You need to make sure that you're letting in some of that good stuff. Okay. I hope that makes sense to you. If anybody has any questions then on that attribution style, just let me know. But I think that's a real biggie, because very often, as you can see here, when there's success, you do need to attribute it. You need to take some credit for you. You need to notice what it is that you did, you know, what action you took. It's not just all luck. There has to be, you have to start to build up evidence for yourself as to why you deserve this success, or deserve that job promotion, or deserve that praise that you got. Okay. So just to kind of summarize a few different tips before we finish up. I'm just going to, move around the Q&A box here so that I can actually see. And again, feel free, if there's questions, to pop them into the chat or the Q&A now. So you do need to let in the good. Give yourself credit. Every little bit of progress you make, keep track of it, particularly if it's if it's one of the goals that you're working on, if it's something that you're focusing on growing confidence in, then absolutely keep it written down, keep a little folder, let in the good. Give yourself credit and accept praise. None of this bashing it off. So very often with that attribution style, we're wide open to criticism. We take it on, we mull it over, we, lose sleep over it, we worry about it. And then when there's praise, we just bash it straight back. We don't take it. So that's very uneven, non-scientific. You actually need to be more careful when people are putting you down. So, and this may actually address some of the comments that have come in questions. They weren't really questions, but comments that have come in the Q&A there. If somebody has a bad intention towards you, if they want to hurt you, if they're just coming from a place of anger, for example, then do not take that stuff on. It would be like if somebody came to hit you, if they wanted to give you a box, you would get out of the way, okay? So in the same way, when it's verbal or emotional coming at you, get out of the way. Don't take that stuff personally. Don't let it in, okay? So if they're coming from a bad place, if they have a bad intention, then you don't take on what they're saying. If you can give them the benefit of the doubt, if you really think that their intention was good, that they wanted to help, or that they're just, in their own mind, they're helping you to improve, or they're helping to bring up the performance of the team, or whatever it might be, then you absolutely need to take it on board, even if the delivery was, not very good. But if there's a bad intention from somebody, then don't take on the negative stuff from them, okay? And when somebody has a good intention towards you, take it on, take that stuff on, take it in, okay? It can help to keep a great folder. If you really struggle with confidence, and I've worked with people in coaching this, and they found it really successful. And particularly if you do find, depending, because I've had a few questions about that kind of gender difference in the workplace, where women maybe feel stigmatized as leaders. Maybe I had one person send me a question in advance saying that they struggle, that they feel that people in their culture still don't want female leaders. So if this is the kind of case for you, if you're working, or you're a woman working in a man's world, perhaps in tech or something, then it can be really helpful to keep what I call a great folder. And this is where you keep track of all your achievements, all the positive feedback that you get, write it down, all your accomplishments and certificates, put a copy into a folder, so that on the days when you're feeling low or you're feeling vulnerable, you have this resource that you can go to boost yourself and build yourself back up, and remind yourself that yes, you've got this, you can do it, okay? So keep your evidence for you, because very often we'll find arguments in our head for all the reasons why we can't do something, or why we're not good enough. But if you've got that evidence in front of you there in a folder, and you've got, if you've written down the different nice things that have happened, or that people have done for you, or that people have said about you, the good feedback that you get, that's real evidence, and you can't really argue against that. So keep a great folder. Some of you might have a gratitude practice. So I'd encourage you, if you do have a gratitude practice and you'd like to build your confidence, make one of your gratitudes every night personal. Make it about you. Think back to the day and think about something that you did well, or something that you're happy that you handled well that day, or some way that you responded well, or refrained from reacting, something that maybe that you're happy about. And give yourself credit and thank yourself for that. So again, I'm grateful for the fact that I handled that outburst in work today. I feel like I kept calm through it, or that crisis or whatever it might be. So, and of course, it would be more powerful not just to think these thoughts, but to write them down as well. So even if you're writing down one thing a night that you're grateful for about yourself, or about what you did, or about how you approach something, you know, after a week, you've got like 7 good things there about yourself. After a month, you're going to have 30. So that's going to help your confidence. So that's taking action, even in just small little ways. There are so many ways that you can help yourself. You are worth it. You deserve it. I absolutely believe in your potential. We all have amazing potential as human beings. We just get in our own way. And it's a shame to see so much potential going to waste when your only job really is to be yourself. So hopefully you have taken on something from today. I suppose the other areas that if you really would like, you know, to make this your focus and you'd like to grow your confidence over the coming months, then you do need to look and work on your self-talk, your limiting beliefs, your self-expression, building that relationship with yourself. So it can help to get to know your values. It really helps to be in alignment. Very often when we don't have enough confidence to do things, then we're actually damaging our confidence, our relationship with ourselves by living, you know, kind of believing in one thing but doing another. So my guiding light in life really would be that question: what feels right for me? Moment to moment decisions that you make throughout the day, what feels right for me? So then you're in alignment and you're building that trust in yourself, you're building that relationship with yourself, and that's key to building your confidence and your sense of self. And lastly, last tip there is to work to your strengths. When you work to your strengths, you're doing something that you know you're good at, and actually that's when you start to excel rather than just kind of work at an average level. And then you're really dipping into your potential. I suppose one of my big beliefs and one of the reasons I'm doing the work that I do is because I really believe that we were all born with a treasure chest inside all of us. So I have my treasure chest, you have yours, and that makes us all equal. However, my treasure is different than your treasure, and that makes us all unique. We all have our own separate treasure. Okay. And your only job really in life is to use that treasure to express fully who you are, to be fully you, be authentic, be yourself, and bring those gifts out into the world. You are good enough. There's no need to ever compare yourself to anybody else, really. So just to summarize, I suppose, you know, we've looked at the 3 steps. You need to set your goals. You need to get really specific on what it is you want to improve. You need to outline the benefits and the outcomes to yourself and create some measures, and then start taking action. We've looked at, you know, stretching out of that comfort zone and pushing through the fear and getting support if you need to. These are some of the areas that you're going to have to work on to kind of to help you to build that confidence. It may well help you to work with a coach or to join some kind of a program. These are the kind of areas that I work on in my own groups, and will be, you know, in my next September group. I know some people have expressed an interest in working with me for coaching one-to-one. I probably only have 1 or 2 coaching places available for the foreseeable future because it's a busy schedule, a busy diary. If what I'll do actually is just, I'll pop this into the Q&A. Oh, sorry now. Oh, come back. Right. Okay. no, I'm going to pop this into chat. So if you are interested and you would like just a chat with me, if you want to meet me for half an hour to get clear on your goals and what's right for you and what you want to do, then feel free to book a discovery call for me. I have a limited number available this week on the calendar there. So you can cut and paste that, or you can click on that, and that'll bring you to a calendar for a 30-minute session with me. No obligation and free. So if you want to kind of investigate further what route you want to take and what's going to be right for you, or whether I'm right for you, or whether it's the right time to work with me. And if you have those kind of questions and you'd like to get clear on your goals, then you can have a free 30-minute session. As I say, I only have a limited number of those, and there's only, I'd only have place for literally 1 or 2 people for coaching for one-to-one. But keep an eye. If you know, let me know if you have any questions. I've got both the chat and Q&A open here now. So any Q&A, any questions that you might have, feel free to type away there. And if you haven't already, do connect with me on LinkedIn. It's probably my most active place is LinkedIn, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. I'm still kind of new to Instagram, so but I do put regular posts in there. And if you have any questions, you know, or even if you are watching this and record and you can't ask me live, pop a question into me on whatever form of social media you're on. And, you know, if there's something that you want me to address, something that you'd like me to cover, let me know and I'll see what I can do to help. When you've probably all at this point subscribed to my website, to my newsletter, mindworks.ie. If you go onto my website, you can subscribe there. You get a free newsletter once a month, and I promise not to bombard you with emails, but a newsletter comes out once a month, and then if I have other good news, I share that. So thank you all very much, and thanks for joining me live today, and thanks for your questions. So great. So I can see some of you are, yeah, somebody's saying there, considering a change in career. Yeah, so, you know, it's going to be scary. Change is scary. Whether you're changing career or thinking of going out to self-employment, there's a lot of fear. Of course there is. I took that step way back in 2004. I was in a full-time, lovely, cushy job, and everybody thought I was mad to step out into self-employment. And now looking back, you know, with a bit of wisdom and experience, I probably would have done it a little bit differently than I did. But yeah, I couldn't go back to being employed now. I'd say I'm unemployable. I like being my own boss at this stage. I've been running my own business for a long time, but you know, I still have to adapt and change with the times, and I'm constantly learning. So feel the fear and do it anyway. Take action, grow your confidence, and grow that relationship with yourself. Confidence isn't something that you go out and build from buying something on a shelf. It's much more the inner work. So don't let your confidence be dependent on you getting the next certificate or achieving the next goal. It's more about what you say to yourself and giving yourself credit for those things that you've already done. And, you know, yeah, so stretch through the comfort zone for those kind of areas, and then make sure that you're attributing things internally and giving yourself credit. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I don't see any new questions coming in. So thanks for the lovely comments, and I wish you well till next time. Goodbye.